Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our banter, where we talk about the story Cicada narrated for the week, what we liked and disliked about it. Since I've already read the story, I want to get your thoughts on a few things, Cicada. More specifically, if you were offered 2 grand to watch the farm, would you have taken the job based off the original rules?
Absolutely. I mean, if there's a small farm in the area that I'm aware of and they're offering 2 grand for me to essentially just house sit and do a couple barn chores, I grew up doing barn chores on a hobby farm already, so I know how these things go. I'm absolutely taking that every day of the week. But with that, the main protagonist, she doesn't know the rules until she's there. And I think had I gotten the rules, I probably would want some sort of context. I'd probably be calling the Gershons and trying to see if I could get a little bit more information on this.
Okay, do you have any, specific rule in mind that you need context on?
I probably all of them. I mean, they're all fairly weird. The Probably not the chicken, like feeding the chickens. That's a obviously it makes sense. Or putting the produce out on the farm stand. Those make sense. Obviously the we don't own any pigs. Why is that
Mm.
a rule? That's not a rule that I have to follow. You don't own pigs. Okay.
Yeah, no, that would get me asking some questions. What do you think would have happened if she ignored the rules from the start?
I would say probably not a whole lot. Specifically though, depending on the rule. I mean, rule 6 is, the goats if they're awake. Once again, that's not really a rule, it's just kind of a an idea. But things like number 4, I feel like that's a pretty big indicator to not go outside. Stay inside and just stay there. Don't go outside. It's not a coyote. It's not a fox. Probably something cryptid beyond what she understands.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and it's at least the first thing that came to mind when I was looking at Rule 4 is what is protecting the animal pens that isn't going to be protecting her,
It,
like, if she were to go out there at night?
yeah, I didn't. That didn't even cross my mind. It just seems to me that it's an animal pen. It's nice steel. It's fences. It's good insulated barns that have strong structural walls. I kind of just assumed that it wasn't going to be able to get in if it tried anyways. Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense. I similarly to, how it can't get into the house, I imagine, is what you're thinking.
Exactly. Something that she's safe as long as she follows the rules. It's almost as though the house is the pen.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And, since part 1 was mainly just build up to the story, explaining the rules and all of that, I'm just gonna skip on over to part 2. What were your first impressions on the old man? Do you think he was trying to manipulate Emily or help her out?
I, as you said, you've read the story, so obviously you know the old man. I haven't read the story. I try to do these things as I narrate, I read. That way I can try to get a real reaction from myself. And I don't know how to feel about the old man. I don't believe he's trying to manipulate Emily. He seems almost concerned or as though he's withholding information, something that he knows that she should know as well, but he's just not telling her. Not that he's intentionally trying to harm her in any way, but also probably not trying to help her.
Yeah, okay. And, does the old man's opinion on the Gorshons, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but that's what I'm going with. Does him saying that Emily shouldn't trust them change your opinion on the Gorshons?
Yeah, I think so. Because if the Gershons, for the record, offered me $2,000 and I hadn't met them before, I would be, I guess, a bit hesitant. I do know that I said I would totally do this for $2,000, but I had kind of assumed that Emily had met the Gershons already. She knew who they were and that they had talked or at least met a few times before this, but the old man kind of changed my view on that.
Okay. And like the old man seems to really know the Gershons, and they didn't bring it up to Emily once. I feel like that would have been included in the rules of like the farm stand. Like, hey, look out for our usual. Maybe make sure XYZ is stocked because he'll be stopping by.
And you say, our usual, but it almost, as he stood there, it says that he didn't buy anything and he just walked away. Well, he had said that, only the Gershons have what I'm looking for. And that to me seems like it would be something that you'd want to keep away. It doesn't doesn't bode well for Emily. I don't like what that sounds like. I mean, if it's a farm stand, obviously you're looking for something specific, fruits and vegetables. But if he's not, what is he looking for? Does it tie into the pigs that they don't own, even though clearly a pig on the farm, even though it's all janked up and weird?
Oh yeah, but the officer said that was just rabies. I mean, the officers wouldn't lie to Emily, right?
Uh, See, and I once again I haven't read the story. I don't know how it ends, but that to me just doesn't seem right. It clearly has a human face. She describes it as a human face. Actually, when I read through it the first time, as I was narrating, I thought that it was her face, and that was the problem there. And then my brain went on a whole tangent that the Gershons had taken her in to slowly convert her into a pig.
Oh, that's a real interesting way to think about the pig. And I mean, it could be, if you want to think about it that way, that pig could be the last person they had watch their farmstead, right? I mean, it's got a human face. Maybe that is what happens in the end.
Oh, cow! Don't tell me I guessed it. Don't actually tell me if I did guess it for the record, because if I did, that's funny. Um,
No, no, I ain't saying anything. You're just gonna have to find out next week. But I guess more about the pig. Do you think the police officers sitting there, they froze for a second when Emily asked, like, "Hey, what is that thing?" Do you think, I guess, how many times, how many people have called about this pig? Do you really believe that it's feral pigs in the area who all have rabies that have human faces? Do you think this is just a Gershon specific problem that really isn't a problem for the Gershons, but it is for the people watching their farm?
I don't think it's a problem for the Gershons. I do think that it is going to be a problem for Emily and probably for everybody before this, because there's no, BlairDaniels doesn't really do a tie-in to who Emily is and why she's there or what she's doing, but it seems as though she's been in the area for a long time. And if this is the first time she's actually picking up this, watching them in their week vacation in July, who's been doing it before and why aren't they doing it again? What happened to them? And that does kind of strike me as something that could be tied in as a horror element, is that, oh, they're the pig that she saw.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I think Blair Daniels does a great job at just dropping the pig on you and instantly removing it. It it's not more suspenseful than anything, especially since we know there's two more parts. Will the same pig come back? Will a horde of pigs come? Will she turn into a pig? I mean, there's a lot of things that could happen with the pig. Do you think the pig is a creation of the Gortians?
No, I don't think so. There's nothing on the farm. There's no, in the rules, there's nothing that she can't go into. There's no building that she hasn't seen before or anything like that. I don't think the Gershons have that sort of capabilities. I do kind of think at this point that the pig is some sort of anomalous entity. For the record, though, I would say that when the policeman showed up to deal with it, they said, "Did she touch it?" That to me is odd because what happened if she touched it? Does she just turn into a pig? Is that why they don't have it and it's such a problem? Because there's just some weird anomalous pig that walks around and turns you into a pig if you touch it?
Yeah, but I mean, they did later on say that it was rabies, and that is, contracted through saliva and open wounds. And rabies is a if pretty serious thing if you don't catch it immediately. That could kill you.
Yeah, you're not wrong, but everything that the story describes, the pig clearly doesn't have rabies. I don't think pigs can really get rabies, but if it is a pig with rabies, it's not a wild pig. It's a regular old pink pig with a person face on it, and rabies is not going to give a pig a person face. So I don't believe the rabies thing at all for a second.
That's fair enough, and I'm gonna do a impromptu, not fully confirmed cow fun fact about animals, similar to what I did with Smokey the Bear. I am more than confident that boars can have rabies. I don't think they're immune to it. Check in the comments, though, for that correction.
I I do agree with you. I did kind of feel silly saying it. I think the only animal I know off the top of my head that doesn't get rabies or is resistant would be a possum.
Yes, that again, we're gonna go with that. I have 0 idea. I'm pretty sure you're right.
Outside of the animal tangent there, Cow, I have a question for you specifically because you know the rest of this, and I want a little bit of info. I want to see if I can get a cheeky idea off you. If you were in Emily's shoes and you saw the pig, are you staying? Is the money worth it?
Okay. Do I guess that's a two-parted question. If I didn't read the rest of the story and I was in Emily's position, no. I would definitely be leaving. Even if I did know the rest of the story, I'd be leaving. I don't think it's worth it. The how do I say this without spoiling anything?
Come on.
The amount of risk per reward, it doesn't match at all. There's 0 benefit for staying there. That 2 grand is worth nothing compared to what Emily will go through, in my
Interesting.
opinion.
Interesting. I like the way you answered that. You definitely gave me what you needed to tell me without spoiling it. Um, without knowing, I'm staying. The police came and they dealt with it. It's gone. I'm good. I'm getting my 2 grand.
Really, even okay, think a little bit more than the pig. What about the child calling for help in the fields and the police shutting that down instantly? That's not gonna scare you away?
No, the Gershons said that it was a bobcat or something of the sort. Maybe it's not a bobcat. Maybe it is some terrible, awful being. They said don't go in there. I'm just not gonna go in the cornfield.
Which is more than fair, but, like, Emily knew for a fact that wasn't a bobcat. Like, heard plain English, something calling for help. Like, it wasn't confused. She responded to it. She opened the window, asked it to stay right there, was going to go help it, called the police. I mean, I feel like you wouldn't call the police. "Hey, I think I heard someone screaming for help in the fields." Could have also been a bobcat the owners warned me about.
I guess you're right, but also it didn't respond to her calls. And if it is, a small child like it is acting like, would it not respond? If you were lost, when you're lost in the wood or the not the woods, the store, when you lose your mom and you say, "Mom, where are you?" and you hear her respond, you go running towards her and you go and you find her and you say, "Mom, I'm here." It didn't do that. It's very clearly not a child, and that gets through Emily's head because she doesn't go outside.
Fair enough. I mean, just to do a little arguing with you, I feel like the store thing works because you know your mother. How, let's say it was a kid or is a kid. I'm not spoiling anything. How do you, how did the kid get there? Was it, was the kid kidnapped, brought into the woods by an adult? Maybe they got away. Are you going to trust someone who is saying, stay right there? I'm coming to help you.
I understand what you're saying. I don't disagree with you. I just how was a kid getting there? It's the middle of nowhere. It's a small farm, and why would there suddenly be a kid in this closed farm field? If it's a small child like it sounds like, how did it get there?
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that one. I mean, you've got you've got a pretty good defense to that.
I, perhaps I have a little bit more of a head on my shoulders for how long I've been around over Emily, but I personally would immediately write that off as not a child. If I follow the rules, don't go in the cornfield, I'm okay.
Okay, so in this scenario, you are a strict rule follower. Even if you are questioning them, you're not going to let that dissuade you from following them to a T.
Not for $2,000, I'm not. That remember, they're paying her a fairly good sum of money. In my head, Emily is probably 17 to 25 years old, and at that age, 2 grand's a pretty good sum of money.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't turn away 2 grand. I do a lot of things for 2 grand. I This may be one of them that I wouldn't do, knowing the full context.
Perhaps my answer will change on that when we finish up parts 3 and 4.
Fair enough, Cicada. And I guess one more thing before we wrap this up. I want to know how you think this story is going to end. We've got 2 parts to go. You don't have too much to go off of, but I think you could get there.
I appreciate your faith in me, Cal, but BlairDaniels has been doing such a good job with this that I don't really know. I I would assume it has something to do with the pigs and something that's obviously going to put Emily's life into peril, and she's going to have to escape. Probably with only $1,000, not two, unfortunately. Um, but I can't quite put my finger on how it is going to end. I thought the pig was going to have more to do with it than it did, but the cops just came out and dealt with it.
Okay. Well, Cicada. I know that we normally give the story a rating, but since we haven't finished it on the channel and you haven't read it yet, I don't think it's fair that we give the story a rating yet. That's going to have to wait for next week.
I would agree with you there. I don't feel comfortable giving this a story a rating yet, and I'm excited to give it a full rating. I feel it's going to be a lot higher than I think it's going to, unless it ends terribly, in which case that'll drop its rating pretty badly.
I don't think you'll be disappointed. All right. Well, on that note, thank you everyone for tuning in. It was a pleasure reading this story this week, and we'll see you next week for part 3 and 4.
Have a good night, everyone.